Hello everyone and welcome to another top 5 records video and another one in the series in which I am reviewing and talking about the discography by Pink Floyd, and today it's time for the third video and for the third studio album, namely More. This is the album cover of More, and as you can see, it is not just a normal studio album. This is a Pink Floyd soundtrack album. A soundtrack to a film by the filmmaker Barber Schroeder. Now, that is interesting because there are often situations with musicians who have recorded a soundtrack, and you can clearly hear that songs were written to push the emotions of a film. But Barber Schroeder asked the band to take a freer approach and to make songs which would also just be featured in the film. So basically this album much more reads or listens like a regular studio album, yet it is far from a regular studio album. And that has to do with the fact that the approach was different. Time-wise and process-wise, this is not an album Pink Floyd took as much care of as their others. Now, and that has that has benefits and that has less interesting elements. Well, let's start with what makes it interesting. They worked fast. They worked pretty fast in the studio. They were sketching more. They were improvising for more. The album was quickly recorded, and Waters wrote most of the lyrics during lunch breaks from recording. Now that is quite the opposite of the more stylized and thought out approach which usually comes with a Pink Floyd album. What do you get with that approach? Well, it is interesting. Pink Floyd having a rougher sound, and you hear a less controlled sound, and that makes for a nice, interesting, somewhat well, I wouldn't say punk, but it's a punkier Pink Floyd album, and I'm very happy that it's out there. It is not a bad album. Actually, this is quite a good album, and it's a challenging album, and it's an interesting album. But does this this does not get you songwriting on the level of most of their other works. It are interesting soundscapes, it are interesting developments, it are interesting trips, and there are some interesting songs. Let's go into the interesting songs. As a matter of fact, the first song, Cirrus Minor, is a nice, dark, somewhat of a ballad. It has organ elements that remind me of A Saucer Full of Secrets. I believe there's actually an organ chord process or the chord development which comes from A Saucer Full of Secrets, I guess. The Nile song is basically a hard rock song, even rougher than the other Pink Floyd hard rock song, which I would call We Need a Dirty Woman, We Need a Dirty Girl. I don't come, I am losing the name of the title, but it's on the wall. But this is a real hard rock song by Pink Floyd, which is nice. Does it work like a hard rock song from Deep Purple or Led Zeppelin? No, but it's a nice and interesting experience. At the Khyber, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. At the Khyber is the only Mason and Wright composition that the two of them solely did together, which is an interesting jazz improvisation. The Crying song is a nice song, and I think that Green is the Color and Cymbeline are two beautiful and nice songs. Those are also songs that they played more often live. Green is the Color and Cymbeline. Side 2 gets more into a sort of, how do you say, soundtrack kind of quality, which feels like something that would go along well with film, but it's also nice and trippy. It's a nice record. I mean, it's a nice record, but there is not an incredible ballad or an incredible banger or the most epic, interesting masterpiece, which basically every Pink Floyd album has, to my belief, one single masterpiece. And this album doesn't really have that. Now, is that bad? No, 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 no. I think that's not bad. I think it's a nice and interesting album. And I really like the sense that we have that there is a Pink Floyd album out there which is a bit more rougher, which shows you what this band can do with less time. It's somewhat is an invitation to the core of the band when they are not fully in control or when they're pressured, and it makes for a great universe of music. So it's a good album. It's a good album, but overall, it's not a masterpiece. But it's a good album. It's a good and interesting album. So, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below, and I'll see you in my next video with regard to Pink Floyd. Namely, I'm going to take a closer look at Uma Guma.